This lecture is on Impressionism and the very famous French composer Claude Debussy. Impressionism, if you have to give it a definition, is a late 19th century artistic movement which sought to capture the visual impression rather than the literal reality of a subject. The visual artists that were associated with this movement, the French visual artists, were Claude Monet, Edouard Manet, and Pierre-Auguste Renoir. And they worked with light, color, impression in their visual works and their paintings. Claude Monet, of course, very famous for his sunrise. The counterparts to this movement is, of course, the composers Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel. They both were composers that emphasized mood and atmosphere and sensuous tone colors in their works. Claude Debussy was born 1862 to 1918. I'd like to open with two of his character pieces that you're going to be using to answer some of your questions. The Sunken Cathedral and also the Clair de Lune. In the Sunken Cathedral, it is a prelude, it is a character piece. And when you're listening to it, it is the sense that a cathedral that is kind of underwater comes up, rises, the monks are going through and singing through the cathedral, and then at the very end you hear it come down. So this is the Sunken Cathedral by Claude Debussy. that's the Sunken Cathedral, a prelude by Claude Debussy. Now I would like to play for you Clair de Lune. they are two what we would consider to be character pieces of Claude Debussy. Let's talk a little bit about the aspects of Claude Debussy that I would like you to be able to identify with. Notes out. Now that you've heard the works. So the one thing that I want you to know about Claude Debussy is that a lot of these works we're starting with the piano works, glittering passages and webs of figurations which distract from occasional absence of tonality. In these works, you've also heard a frequent use of parallel chords, which are not harmonies, but rather chordal melodies, where you have the tune at the top of the chords, enriched unisons, and described as non-functional harmonies. A lot of times you'll have bitonality or at least bitonal chords. Like for instance, if you have something like this, where you have the C chord, and then you have an E flat chord. So a lot of times you have that. Or the use of a whole tone scale. And as you know, when you have the whole tone scale, and you put a pattern on it, it gives you that sense of dreamlike or water. And also the pentatonic scale becomes very important in some of these works as well. We know for a fact that Debussy was very influenced by Javanese gamelan music because he heard it at the Exposition Universelle in Paris in 1889. We also know that he was very, very influenced by Wagner. He actually made visits to the Bayreuth Festspielhaus, which was the place where a lot of the works were performed of Wagner. And so he was very exposed to the Wagnerian operas. And he said of Wagner, "I do not see what anyone could do beyond Tristan." So he was very influenced by Tristan. And we actually see this influence in his very famous Gollywog's Cakewalk, which was a piano piece from the Children's Corner. It was inspired by a doll that his daughter Chow Chow had. And he has a dance in this work. And he actually uses the Tristan chord in it. So what you'll be listening to in Gollywog's Cakewalk is the very famous you actually hear that in the middle of it when the Gollywog is dancing in the work called Gollywog's Cakewalk from Children's Corner. So we know that he was very influenced by these different idioms. As for the Javanese gamelan music, the one place that we do see this influence is the very famous stomp. A stomp was a set of prints, and it was also for piano. The very first one is pagode. So when you're listening to the opening of this, the stomp, you're going to notice that gives you the sense of this gorgeous structure of the pagode, and is very, very influenced by this Javanese gamelan music that he had heard. A right hand going as you actually hear the tune in the left hand.